Integrity has always been a challenge for us humans, but today, even the aspiration to have integrity, the dignity of integrity, is under assault as we step all over each other, which is causing lots of unnecessary suffering. Hi, I'm Caroline Phipps, the founder of Living with Inner Elegance, and I'm here today to talk to you about integrity. Please check out my YouTube channel, subscribe, click on the like and the bell for notifications about future videos. Back in 1944, in World War II, German prisoners of war came to work on our farm. And the policy was understandably met with a certain amount of suspicion and concern. But my father met these people as human beings. I'm going to get back to that story shortly. Today, it used to be that when politicians got their hands caught in the cookie jar, they resigned. When students cheated, they were expelled. When people cut corners at work, they were let go. But in today's post-shame world, the breaks that we used to have in terms of feeling shame or being ostracized or having to step away are increasingly disappearing. We're in a situation where we are all being asked in many ways to compromise our principles and our ethics in this environment that we're in of anything goes and winner takes all. It's going to be a downward spiral to nowhere if we're not all really careful about what we're doing and if we're not paying some attention to integrity in our lives. Recently, I was on the phone waiting for a person to speak to about a problem that I had, and I was listening to this message, and it gave me quite a long time to think about integrity because it's a message you all know very well. Your call is important to us. Please hold on the line and somebody will be with you shortly. Well, as I was waiting, I thought there is a big integrity gap between the message I'm being given and the truth of the situation that I'm experiencing. Clearly, if my call mattered, somebody would answer it. And this is becoming increasingly the way things are. The word integrity comes from the Latin integer, which means wholeness, undivided, oneness, completeness. And I realized that gap comes from a place of where things don't tie together with integrity. One message is one thing and the situation is the other thing, and the two are not creating this wholeness, this integrity situation. I was in a big bookstore recently buying a computer, and I had a similar situation because not only was I cynically misled as to the capability of the computer, but when I returned it, I had to fight really hard to get my money back. The situation had become so bad on the sales floor that the salespeople weren't even attempting to even pretend that they were there to be of service. In fact, one of them even said, well, we're just here for today's sales figures. That's our job. And I looked around the store and it was full of discounted electronics and very few customers. And it made me realize that this integrity gap means that things cannot sustain themselves. When we don't have this alignment, things are going to start falling apart. The consequences of this are really profound, because I also see that they're bleeding into our relationships with one another. I have a very disabled friend who ended up doing 9 years in a maximum security prison, which means for somebody like him, no access to the health care that he needed. Because a friend of his had lied to save his own skin and had blamed my disabled friend, thinking maybe that the judge would be lenient on him. When we don't have integrity, it affects the lives of so many people around us. And I think this reason for this degradation in integrity today is the sense and the fear-mongering around dwindling resources, this concern about, if I don't have what I need, I'm not going to survive. Other people are going to want what I have. I want what other people have. And we get into this situation where we divide from one another and we don't support one another. And this is putting so much pressure on people to compromise themselves, their principles, their ethics. This is happening everywhere we look, from our educational institutions to our political situations, religious situations. The pull to fit in and make it work and be on one side or the other is really creating a real decline in integrity. It's got to the point now where, and you may remember this from the last election, we used to be able to agree on concepts like courage and the being of service and having that sense of being of service in a situation that is bigger than we are. And what we saw in the last election was that even a man like the late Senator John McCain ended up being attacked for being a loser because he was captured. When we make winning the gold standard and we attack integrity as being a weakness and being a losing strategy, we are in a very dark spot that's going to get us into a not good situation. We all face challenges around integrity. If you found a whole bunch of cash on the street, would you hand it in, especially if you were in need? If you were at work and the boss went out, do you still work every bit as hard when you're on your own in that situation? Would you lie under oath to get off if you needed to save your skin? It's not easy, integrity, but it's a choice that we can always make. And that brings me back to my dad, because back then, during the Second World War, Daddy had wanted to fight for his country, and he'd gone to the War Office, had wanted to sign up, and they declined him, and they said, no, we need you on the farm helping to feed Britain, because you have the skills that we need for that particular job that you do. And he was understandably very disappointed about that, but nevertheless went back to the farm. And when the German prisoners of war arrived, he could have been very, very bent out of shape about it. He could have been, his ego could have been parading around. He could have been very, very arrogant and upset. But what he came to see very quickly was that a number of these men were very decent people, very honest, full of integrity. They hadn't wanted to go to the war. They hadn't wanted there to be a war. They just wanted the whole thing to stop. I think they were glad to have a safe landing on this farm in England. And my father didn't see them as a particular nationality or a particular type of person. He judged them on the character that they had, because he was a man of integrity. And when I was growing up in the 60s, I would hear about these stories because these men would come back to visit us and our family, and many of them had stayed in England. And we developed these relationships, and it really helped me to see that integrity really does matter, because during this catastrophic Second World War, there was this small piece of England where integrity and decency and connection won out. And it's a story that's always stayed with me. And I'm thrilled that you've stayed with me to hear this story. And remember that every single thing we do every day, we can either be full of integrity with it or not. We have a choice. Every single thing we do, every single thing we think. And it does make the world different, and it will help to make our world better. Please go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, click on the like button and the bell for notifications. Thank you so much for watching and being with me today. Visit my website, carolinphipps.com. I love to hear from everybody, and together we are making this world a more elegant place.